Hey everybody, Dave here. Today I'm going to show you how to use process alerts in Blue Prism. It might be one of the most useful features, but yet the most underused feature of Blue Prism that I can think of. And the main reason for that is that it's just not apparent that it even exists. It's very buried in the settings and you kind of have to dig your way in to get it to even turn on. But once you've got it on, it can be super useful. The other aspect to probably why it's not used that often, as far as I've seen, is that it doesn't natively support email notifications. I know that that's a feature that we'd all like to see, but it's actually better than emails as long as you're sitting at your desk, right? So like 8-9 hours of your day during the weekdays, process alerts might be the way to go for you to get notifications about things going on in production for Blue Prism. As always, the best place to start is just by seeing really quick what the feature does that we're going to talk about in this video, and that will help you know whether or not you want to look into it more. I'm going to show you just one example of a process alert. So this is one of the 4 types of notification methods that you can choose from, and this is the most obvious one. So I've chosen to have pop-up notifications, and so I'm going to just show you is I'm going to drop a process in control room onto a resource. So this is a laptop that's actually sitting next to me that's connected to this Blue Prism environment through a local application server. And I'm just going to drag and drop this on that resource, and it's going to create a pending session. And now you see that it shows login on Alpha Centauri, which is the name of the laptop, and it says process pending. So that's the condition under which this process alert is going to pop up. I can go ahead and start it and show you that it'll show me different types of notifications whenever things like fail and stuff like that. So this one's definitely going to fail. I'm trying to run login agent to run login on this machine, which is going to just fail immediately. And I missed that notification, but you probably saw it said running or something like that. And then it should terminate because it's not going to work. And then it says login on Alpha Centauri terminated. So those are just some of the types of notifications you can get. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video. So we're going to talk about what permissions you need in order to use process alerts, how you start up the process alerts monitoring, and then some different configurations you can do inside of the process alerts configuration window. And then we'll play around a little bit at the end to see different things we can do with it. The first thing you've got to do is give users access to process alerts. I'm going to use a user that I've created in this environment called test user. So if I go over to the users section under security in the system tab, you'll see there's a user called test user. Something else you'll notice, can you see this? Yep, you can see this. So it says native, and that means that this is native authentication, native Blue Prism authentication. This is a local Blue Prism environment. There's no Active Directory involved here or single sign-on or anything. So this is going to be different for you. This is not how you would create users. I'm going to say that you already know how to do that if you're a system administrator, and how to tie user roles to Active Directory security groups. So I'm not going to show any of that here. If you are curious, feel free to ask me in the comments and I can respond. But there are going to be some screens that will look a little different. Let's say that we want to give this person, who's an imaginary person, his name is test user. We want to give this person access to process alerts. Well, the first thing I got to do is assign this user to a user role that has access to process alerts. The first thing I can do is make sure that they are in a role that I want them to be in. And it looks like I've already assigned them to alert subscribers. So that works perfectly fine. I could choose process administrators instead, right? That looks like it might give them access to what I need. But let's say that I'm giving them the minimum set of permissions. I've put them in alert subscribers right here. I'm going to click OK. I'm going to go over to the user roles section, still under the security group here. At the bottom, you can see the various users that are assigned to this user role. And in this case, it's admin, Dave, the RPA guy, and test user. So that looks good. Now I've got to make sure that the user role has access to process alerts. And I'm just going to go ahead and quickly show you the specific permissions that I would give and then explain what each of them are for. So I would choose these 3. View resource is necessary. You have to be able to view runtime resources or process alerts are just not going to work at all. The other thing you absolutely have to have is subscribe to process alerts. This means effectively you can turn on process alerts or when you log into Blue Prism, that process alerts will start up if you have subscribed to anything. And then the other one that's not 100% required, but I would say just give this to users unless you know why you're not giving this to users. So do plenty of testing around this and determine for yourself what level of permissions you'd like for the users to have. But this lets users configure process alerts for themselves. They can't affect the process alerts of any other users unless they have more permissions than this. They would have to actually have access to the users section of the security group. And if they don't have that access, then they can only affect their own process alerts configuration. So I'd say go ahead and give that to them. So these three are what I'd suggest. I'm going to click apply. So I'm going to log in as that test user. So, in the background window back here, this one's me logged in as a system administrator. I'm going to log in as test user. And then its test password is its password. Remember, this would look different for single sign-on. There would be no username or password. You would be signing in with your Windows credentials effectively, just automatically. So now I'm going to click sign in. And then you can see across the top that most of these tabs are grayed out. Okay. I can click the home tab and it looks like I can see license information as far as like sessions running and stuff, but I can't do anything in Studio, Analytics, Releases, System. And then I do have the My Profile tab, which is another difference between single sign-on and native Blue Prism authentication environments. This won't show up if it's single sign-on because you can't change your password in Blue Prism in that case. Your password is your Active Directory, network password. So now let me go to the control room tab. Why is it not called control room? We all call it control room. It should have the word room at the end there. So you can see on the left, I can't really see anything, but I can see resources. And this is because of that permission we gave it, view resource. We also can't see schedules and we can't see timetables and other stuff like that. To configure process alerts, it would sometimes be possible for you to get to process alerts by simply logging into Blue Prism like this. But the only way that that's going to happen is if the system administrator who turned on process alerts for you or who gave you access to it, then also went and set up at least one setting inside of process alerts for you so that it would start up automatically. Let me show you how you can start up process alerts on your own if you needed to, but the system administrator could also help with this. So I have a shortcut here on my desktop. I'm going to go to properties for that. And I'm just going to copy this out. Okay. So I'm going to put this on multiple lines so that it's easy to see this. But this would technically just be all one line if you were to use this in the shortcut. So you've got in the target field of this shortcut, you have the path to the executable file for Blue Prism, and it's automate.exe. And then after that, you have a / alerts, and then you've got your authentication, which right in the same place, it would say /SSO if you were using single sign-on, but I'm not using single sign-on in this local environment. And then this is completely optional. You don't have to have this, but if you use multiple Blue Prism environments, then it's good to specify which one you are doing process alerts for. Otherwise, it's going to use the most recent one that you signed into. And I just don't like that uncertainty. So I have DB con name, and then in quotation marks, then the full name of the connection. So that's the environment right here, the connection that you see when you open up Blue Prism. And if you're able to get into configure connection, then you could copy this out. And then you could paste it right here inside of this. And then this is your shortcut to start up process alerts. This same thing can be used in the command window. Let's go to command prompts. Run this in two separate commands to show you it can work in command prompts. So I'm going to change directory to go to the Blue Prism automate folder. And then once I'm there, then I can run this. Automate, which calls the automate exe and then provides it parameters for alerts. Here's my authentication, which again would say /SSO instead of these three words here. And then my DB con name, my connection name, which is not required, but I like to use it. And then write no error. And then if I look in the bottom right, I should see, I should see process alert monitor pop up. So let me exit that and show you that the shortcut also works. Okay, so here's that shortcut. Show you one more time what it looks like inside of here. Same arguments or parameters that you would provide in command prompts. And at the beginning of this, it's just the target to the exe. So I'm going to run that. And we should see the same thing. Take a couple seconds, and then the process alert monitor should pop up. Okay, it's there. I'm having problems with Windows showing it all the time on the bottom right here, but it is there. So let me go ahead and exit this. And so I wanted to show you the last way, which doesn't involve you really putting any effort in. And this is if, say you're not technical at all, or, you are just not comfortable doing any kind of configuration in Blue Prism yourself, and you want a system administrator to do it, whether you're required to by a user role or you just would like some help. So what a system administrator can do, so right, you remember this test user cannot access the system tab, but a system administrator can access the system tab. They can go to your user, and this should work the same in SSO, single sign-on, or native Blue Prism authentication. You just go to the user's root node, right? Right-click on the user, then you can click Configure Process Alerts, and here you have the same window, but what I'm doing is configuring the process alerts as the system administrator for a different user. That's the difference when I see this window compared to when I might see it as an individual user. And then all I have to do is choose whatever the user wants to be notified about, right? So like choose one process, one notification method, and one business process, and then we can click OK. And now when that user that we just configured it for goes and logs into Blue Prism, and then what should happen, because the system administrator set that for me, this user should automatically have, there it is, a process alert monitor process start up for me. And now I can right-click, click Configure Alerts, and then I can go to town on choosing what all I want. But you can see that these specific checkboxes that the system administrator set for me are still here. And this would work regardless of what machine I log into or anything. This is settings that are saved for that user in the Blue Prism environment. Let me go back and just point out this this file, which is what I'd say is the easiest way to handle making alerts start up. So you could do it, that it starts up when you log in to Blue Prism, but if all you're trying to do is just monitor alerts, you could have this run all the time. And so what I would say the easiest way to do this is to go to your startup folder. There's two locations that you can use. One of them is your startup folder for the current user. So that's going to be right here. This is the address where you'd go to, and you could just Google, a user startup folder in Windows. And this is where you could drop in that file. So you could copy it, paste it right here. Whenever you log into Windows, it should automatically start up a process alerts monitoring process for you and start giving you notifications as things happen. I'm going to delete that though from here. And then I'm going to go to the other location, run. You can do shell : common startup. And then click OK. And that will bring you right to the startup folder that is for all users for the current machine. So if you, for whatever reason, maybe this is only your machine, right? And you just want to toss it in a non-user folder. I don't know why that would benefit you. Usually this folder is used for like a runtime resource startup, which actually, now that I think about it, that's where this one should be. So let's move that over here. Okay, yeah, so my runtime resource should be in the all users location. But anyway, so you could drop this maybe in the current user one. That would probably make more sense. And it would start up every time you log in. Now, in case any of that was confusing, let me show you a quick set of steps you can do to get this file that I have, the shortcut to start up the alerts. Go to your Blue Prism Automate folder. So C:\/ program files, Blue Prism Limited, Blue Prism Automate, and then go down to automate.exe, right click on it, click send to, and then click desktop create shortcut. It'll create a shortcut here, just like the one above. You could rename this like I did. I put the word alerts in it. But at this point, you'll have a shortcut to start up Blue Prism, but you need to edit this. So you'd go into the properties, and at the very end of the target, that's where you'll put in this stuff. So let me just show you the easy version of it. Automate doesn't need to go in there. So right here. Okay. So really all you have to have is alerts and user, test user, test password in my case, because these are the username and the password. If you're on single sign-on, then it will look like this. Right, so you'd go to the end here, put a space, because I think maybe that's necessary, and alerts SSO. That's all that you have to have, and then it's going to start up process alerts for whatever the most recent Blue Prism environment is that you've used. And of course you can, put the DB con name at the end if you need to. In my case, I would do this instead of SSO, right? So that's all you have to have. And then you can, click OK, and then you can just copy, paste this wherever you need to, and you've got yourself a quick startup to get alert monitoring going. Now, let's say that we are not signed in to Blue Prism, even though we technically are as an administrator. So let me sign out. I'm not signed into Blue Prism in any users or any environments, and I want to turn on process alerts. Let's make sure that no alerts are on right now. The only thing that's here is just a runtime resource, and I don't actually even have to have that. But let's go ahead and start up an alerts. And then we should see it pop up in here. There it is. Okay, now I'm going to right click on that icon and click configure alerts. And then we can configure this. So let's make the window a little bigger. Okay. The first thing that you can obviously see, I mean, I know you can navigate through this yourself, but I'll walk you through it anyways. These are a bunch of processes that I've made in this environment. Probably most of them don't even currently work because I'll halfway edit something and then not finish it. But I'm gonna choose a few random processes just to show you that, it doesn't matter what you choose here, except that you'll want to do it with purpose so that you make sure you only get notifications for ones that you want notifications for. And then I can choose multiple notification methods. I'm going to do pop-up alert and taskbar icon. And then I'm also going to choose all of these except for stage under business process. So it's labeled business process, but what that means is status. So the status of a session for a process. When it goes to a pending status, a running status, completed, stopped, failed, in all of those scenarios, it's going to give you an alert notification. A common question a lot of people have is, can we get an alert when a process goes into a warning state? And the answer is no. And I would say obviously the main reason for that, it's not here, but also pending, running, complete, stopped, and failed, I believe are actually database level values inside of a field in one of the tables. So the warning state, the warning status is not an actual value stored in the database. It's just the user interface telling you that the process hasn't left a certain stage in more than, say, 5 minutes. It's been stuck on that stage for that long, but the session inside the database does not actually have a value for warning, whereas the rest of these do. Maybe that's the reason, but I don't know. I'm going to leave stage unchecked because right now we haven't configured any processes to use that. So I'll show you what that is in a little bit. So let me go ahead and go over to, and I should mention this, what I've done so far is good enough. If I wanted to just use this, click apply, okay, whatever, and then go on about my day. But I'm also going to choose schedules so that we can test that too. And I'm going to check this new schedule name. I don't even know what's in that, but we'll run it and we'll just make sure that we can see that we can get a notification when the schedule starts, when it completes, and when it terminates. And then also the tasks inside that schedule, we want a notification about all those too. Because maybe this is excessive. You don't really want this many notifications, but I just wanted to show you all the options that you have. So I'm going to click OK. And then let's go log into Blue Prism. I'm going to log in as the system administrator. So this process alert monitor that I'm using is under the test user account. This is not under the system administrator account. So for now, let's just pretend as if I'm not logged into Blue Prism on this computer. But what I am going to do is run these processes in control room on a different runtime resource. So Alpha Centauri is the name of my laptop that's sitting next to me, and Altair is the machine that we're on right now. And I'm going to drag one of those processes. I did not actually pay attention to which ones I subscribed to, so I think login will work. And I'm going to drag and drop that on here onto Alpha Centauri. Click Start Selected Sessions, Start. And you can already see we've started to get some notifications. Two things that you'll notice. Obviously, the obvious part is the pop-ups. But the other thing is, I don't know if you noticed, but this icon changed from a red color to a yellow color. So I can right-click on it, and you can see that it gives me the option to clear the alert. So I'm going to click Clear Alert, and you see that the color changed back from yellow to red. And that's the second option that I chose. Let me just jump back in and show you. This taskbar icon, that's what that does. It changes between red and yellow. When it's red, I'm not sure who's in UX design at Blue Prism, but like red should not be working correctly. It should be like a green color. And then when there's a notification or something, it should turn to yellow or red. This is how it works. Okay, so it's a red color when the monitoring is working and there's no notifications currently. And then it's yellow whenever you need to go deal with something. So if you have the taskbar icon part checked, I'm going to go ahead and do play sound as well. And so we should also hear a sound. I don't even know what sound it's going to be because I don't think I've ever used it before. So we're going to try it now. Let's try a schedule. Let's see. We subscribed to the new schedule. Don't know if this will work, but let's test it. It should run the first task. And we don't want a post-completion delay. So then task 1 should finish and then go to task 2. When task 2 finishes, it should go to task 3 and then it should stop. So let's see if it gives us a notification for those, even if there's no process. That would be kind of cool. Okay, I'm going to right-click on New Schedule and go Run Now. I don't know if this is actually going to do anything though, but we'll find out. Yeah, I think I might need a process to actually be on these. Oh, wow, it worked. Schedule started. Okay, task started. So that was task 1. Task 1 terminated. Probably because there was no process to run. Okay, and it says task 3 terminated. Okay, so we got a few notifications there. Probably if I thought about it, it would make sense to me. It almost seemed like it was telling me something twice, but it probably wasn't. It's probably because I subscribed to the schedule notifications and the task level notifications. I just have to try that more. I don't personally use schedule notifications from this alert monitoring. Now I kind of think I might. I've always thought like, well, I'll just receive the email notifications and that's fine, but I'm actually really liking this. So I think tomorrow morning I might go turn it back on for schedule notifications so that I can get those too, because that's kind of nice. And I especially like that it told me when the schedule terminated, even if there wasn't a process in there to run. So even if your process is set up to send email notifications when it terminates, this will notify you even when the process itself cannot start for some reason, like probably if the resource is too busy or something like that. So this is actually a pretty cool feature. Now that we've run this a couple times, let me go over to here, right? We can do clear alert so that it goes back to red. I'm going to click view alert history. And we're back into the same window, right? So we can configure over here, but the history tab shows us recent runs. This looks really weird, and that's because there was nothing actually run. So it's because I configured a schedule that doesn't have any processes in it, and that's why you see a bunch of zeros here. Otherwise, you'd see actual like session IDs and stuff. Well, I guess this is session IDs. So let me scroll down a little bit, and we can see what's happened previously. You'll notice that there can be a lot of noise here, and that's based upon how many things you subscribed to. So if you subscribed to like every single status for every process in the entire Blue Prism environment, and the schedules, all the statuses schedules and their tasks it can have, this could get really noisy and tons of rows here. So it's kind of up to you how much you want to be notified for. But this is why I'm suggesting I think users need to have access to this so that they can, on an hourly basis, change this to say, oh, you know what, I'm actually getting notified about like way too many things. I don't want this many notifications. This one's not as important to me as that other process, and they'll configure it that way. Let's go back over to the history tab. The other thing I want to show you is that you can export the logs. Well, I guess I should show you this. You can view previous days. Right now, what we're looking at is a single day, and that's today. Wednesday, August 25th, 2021. It's actually going to be midnight in like 1 minute. So I guess this will go away in just a minute whenever I reload it. But I can export today to my desktop. So let's do that. Desktop, going to export, and then let's go look at that, see what it looks like here. Okay, so it's the same information, but now in Excel, I could filter and do whatever else I need to. I probably won't be able to read this very easily if I scroll out. Yeah, I just wanted all of it to be in view. I know you can't read this very well, but it's got all the same columns. And one thing I wanted to zoom in on and show you is that when you export this, just notice that while it is local time for me, this is Eastern time, it says 11:55 when this ran. When it exports out, it's going to be in UTC because I think the database stores these values in UTC. So when it exports, it's just exporting the data from the database. So if you were doing some time comparisons or whatever, you'd note, right, you exported the 25th of August, but this line says it's from almost 4 a.m. on the 26th of August. That's just the time zone difference. So I think that's probably obvious to most people, but I wanted to point it out. I think the rest of the data remains unchanged. It's good to go. And this might look more meaningful if we had done some real things with this, and if I didn't have myself subscribed to literally everything. So I'm going to close that. And now, yeah, right. I want to show you that you can go to previous days. I'm going to make this window a little smaller and go to previous days. So, Tuesday, nothing. And then Monday, this was a couple days ago. I was trying some silly things, and I was just seeing what I could do. I was running a process on multiple runtime resources on the same machine and having it use like environment locks to deconflict which one gets control of the mouse at the time and stuff like that. Anyway, so I used this logging, and while I didn't output exactly what I wanted, it shows that you do have the option to use stages inside of a process to get specific messages. And so that's what I want to show you now. And I want to just note here, right? It says like alert file, which it's file number 1 on all of these, but that's because I just messed up. It's not Blue Prism's faults, but it says on Alpha Centauri, and then each of these, some of these are different, where it says a different port number. So what I wanted was to see which port number it's running on inside this message. And I know that you can see it in the resource column right here, but this is just showing an example of like, what if you wanted to change a number or a value and see that in each row that it posts into the notifications history. So let me go over to Studio, And let's open up, well, let's actually just create a process. And we'll just call this like test alerts. Next, open the process. And I'm going to drag over a stage that I'm assuming you've never used before, is the alert stage. I don't typically use this. The main reason for that is that it's very hard to think through, like, do I really want this many notifications for this alert stage? I've used it for certain things, like when I in particular need to know if a certain like exception path was taken or something like that. And I didn't really want it to be part of business notifications or, system exceptions that get sent out, because it doesn't really matter, but it helps me to know something about the process and whether I need to update it a certain way later on. But I don't really use this for anything else, but it is here, and any use case you come up with it, you can just use it. Effectively what this stage does is nothing until someone subscribes to alerts. If they subscribe to alerts and they choose right here, this stage, then it's going to notify them about every process that has this exception stage configured somewhere. Whenever that exception stage runs, within the next couple of seconds, a notification, pop up or whatever, will show up on their machine telling them that alert stage, I might have said exception stage, that alert stage just ran, and then it'll give them whatever value is here. So this is a configurable and dynamic value. And then I'll just, I'll toss in something like, let's go with like the time, local time. And then let's just make sure I didn't mess that up. So that it'll look something like this, and it should be different based upon each minute. So time alert, I don't know. So we're going to publish it, actually. Publish to control room. I'm going to save this. And then let's go to control room. And actually, before I run it, we need to go back into configure alerts. And let's find that process that I just created. It started with a T, test alerts. And I'm going to check the stage, business process status. What I can probably also do is just uncheck the rest of these. And I don't want notifications about literally anything except for test alerts. And I only want to know when the stage runs. So I'm going to also uncheck schedules. Okay. I'm going to click OK on this. You have to select at least one notification method. Did I not do that? Whoops. I see what I did. So let's go back into process alerts. I'm going to click clear all. I'm just going to check that one process, test alerts, pop-up alert, and stage. The reason that I messed up before is that when I went to the schedules tab, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so the notification methods is the same between processes and schedules. So if you uncheck everything here, then when you go back to processes, your notification methods are unchecked. So I now have only this, and this selected. Click OK. And now let's run test alerts on Alpha Centauri. And we should get a notification that's similar to the ones before. And it says, this is a configurable and dynamic value at 12:06 a.m. local time. This is all empty, like I said a minute ago, because we just passed midnight. And so I can click previous in order to see all the notifications that happened yesterday. So they didn't like disappear. But these will go away once you archive session logs and stuff. But they should stay here. You can go back a ways as long as the session logs are there in the database. I think that's all I have to show you today. I hope I wasn't super confusing. I did my best to make a little outline and go through it clearly, but it's, sometimes I just start talking about something and, a thought comes to my mind and I just go off on that, on a tangent. I want to leave you with a few thoughts. First thing I'd suggest is that when you go to use this, start with just one process, one status for that process, and one notification method like the pop-up alerts. And I really recommend the one that was like in the configure alerts that had to do with just the taskbar, because that doesn't really interrupt your working, and you'll notice just the color change now and then, and you go check what's going on. The other thing is always test new features that you haven't used before in a lower environment of Blue Prism. And even ideally, if you have your own local environment, it's just a good idea to try new things in a playground or sandbox type of environment. I can assure you that you won't break anything by using process alerts. It's a feature that's designed to be used. But I'm just saying in general, it's a good idea to try things in lower environments first. And I encourage you to teach your colleagues and coworkers how to use process alerts if they're not already familiar with it. And really anybody involved with Blue Prism, process controllers and administrators, system administrators, developers, really anybody involved with this might find a use for process alerts. Might as well teach them how to use it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.